So what do buyers look for? I'm going to go over these in detail, but consistency, pricing, presentation, and requirements. So consistency, above all, is quality plus availability. So you want to have a consistent quality product, one that's going to look the same as much as possible every time you bring it to the store. Obviously, with like fresh produce and stuff, there can be variations, but they want a consistent product that will look consistent to the customers every time they come in the store so they'll recognize your product. And then availability, just make sure that if you commit to a certain amount, you're able to provide that when they place the order. With pricing, you want to definitely consider the wholesale markup. So a buyer can mark up your price anywhere from, 10 to 50%. So, you might want to chat with the buyer ahead of time and see what their markup is so you can price your products competitively to sell to them. On that, do your research. So go into grocery stores, go into the store that you're looking to sell at and see other similar products and see what their prices are like. Try and be around that. Also, chat with other farmers in your area or other local producers and get to know your customer clientele too to see who is shopping at the store that you're looking to sell at. There are a few different pricing models. So absorption pricing, you have to really count for the cost of your production and paying your employees, and then make sure that you're actually making a profit too when you sell. So those are all things to take into consideration. You want your pricing to be competitive. So I think a lot of times with buyers and local foods, they're expecting to pay a little bit more, and as well, the consumer is expecting to pay a little bit more because of the quality, but you don't want it to be too far out of reach for someone. So you want it to be competitive with other similar products on the shelf. And then differentiated pricing, you just want to make sure that you're flexible. If you're working with like a giant big box retail store, they may be ordering like pallets from you at a time. So you may be able to reduce your cost for that. Whereas like a little independent may just be ordering like a case or two a week. So your pricing may be a little bit different, but just be aware that you should be a little bit flexible on your pricing when approaching different buyers. And presentation of your product is super important, especially if you have a packaged product. Having good branding and a strong logo and name, I think, are really important. I always say be bold, simple, yet descriptive. So by descriptive, I mean something that isn't totally off the wall from what your product is. So it sort of either envelops your story or your product. Shelf life is really important. So, make sure the buyer knows what your product shelf life is so it's not sitting out there and starting to wilt on the shelf, or if it's past expiration date. Just bold colors. When you go into a grocery store, I think a great idea is to just look at the shelves and be like, what really stands out to me here? And then sort of decipher what makes this stand out? Why is it standing out to me? And sort of take that into consideration when coming up with your branding. And again, uniqueness. So many farmers will approach a buyer, like a produce buyer, that they're selling lettuce. So, they may have multiple options for lettuce. So maybe find a product that's a more niche product that they're looking to buy and maybe grow that for them. A lot of buyers will have certain requirements for you when working with them. So one is, what is their definition of local? We work with buyers where their definition of local is like a 50-mile radius. Some are statewide and some are more regional, like all of New England or all of the Southwest. So just know what your buyer's definition of local is before approaching them. Certifications, a lot of buyers will require like organic certification or certain growing practices. I know a lot of times, especially nowadays, people are a little bit more open to not organic certified, but organic growing practices. It's just good to make your buyer and your consumers aware of all that stuff because that sort of goes in with all of your story. Food safety requirements also, a lot of times if you're working with restaurants or larger scale wholesale buyers, they'll have food safety requirements like GAP certification. Sometimes that kind of stuff can be a little pricey, so there are grants and other organizations that can help you out with that kind of stuff too.